Hello everyone and welcome to All Things Watched. In this video we are going to talk about the brand new movie Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, also known as Aquaman 2, which is of course a sequel to the original Aquaman movie, which of course came out back in, when did that came out in 2018, the original Aquaman, and so this is a sequel to that, and is also supposedly somewhat of a conclusion to, of course, the DCEU, also known as the Snyder Verse. Now, if I'm going to be honest with you, a part of me really feels like the Flash movie should have came out after this, because after I seen this movie, because I was reading online that I'm pretty sure a couple of representatives for DC were saying how the Flash and Aquaman was going to close out the DCEU, and which would allow the new James Gunn universe come known as the DCU. And I just felt like after seeing this movie, I really truly feel like the Flash was a lot more of a conclusion than this one. And so a part of me wonders if this movie should have come out first and then the Flash, because Aquaman is in a post-credit scene of the Flash movie, and so it just makes me wonder, that's all. And plus, with where the Flash movie ended, it ends in pretty well with the Flash being in a completely different universe. It sort of ends in a way where the DC universe just sort of goes away, and then you sort of have to look at the other side of things as well, which is something like Blue Beetle, which I think is somewhat of a standalone and also at the same time sort of like a transitional film. Like the Blue Beetle seems like it's not really in either universe, it's not really in the DCEU or the brand new one DCU, at least not yet, considering that the DCU is not established. So it really has me a little confused as to where Blue Beetle stands, but I have a feeling that it is technically in its own standalone universe, but it's open-ended. The character ends in a way where James Gunn could use Blue Beetle in the future if they really wanted to, and I'm sure he does have plans to use Blue Beetle and whatnot. So in terms of this movie, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, I really had a love-hate relationship with this one, because I absolutely loved the first half, the second half of the movie. I really did enjoy the second half, but the first half of the movie, I was not a huge fan of that one. For the first probably 20 to 25 minutes, I actually thought the editing of this movie was done really poorly. And I'm not saying that because I'm someone who's hating on DC. I'm one of the few online reviewers that actually praised the DCEU and really wished that the DCEU would continue. But I'm also not somebody who's bashing on James Gunn and his upcoming universe. I just want DC to succeed. And at this point, I do agree with the choices that they are making, especially with Warner Brothers and whatnot, and HBO. I do think that they need to reset this universe. So, for the first 20 minutes or so of this movie, I was really nervous, because I thought, wow, the editing, at least, all these things are subjective, but to me, I found that the editing of the first 20 minutes was done really badly, and I was like, wow, it felt to me as if you had a Blu-ray or a DVD put into your player, and you went to the menu that allowed you to have a scene selection where you could select your scene, and that's really how I felt about the first 20 minutes of this movie. I felt like you could literally see the beginning and the end of each and every scene for the first 20 minutes. I found like there was no transition. The transitions were pretty well not there, to the point where sometimes at the end of a scene it would literally go black, and this whole idea of Aquaman having a baby, it felt like a montage. It was basically done in the sense of, they show you a whole bunch of clips. It was very fast, very unemotional, and I just really struggled connecting with, Arthur or his family, or even that family dynamic, because of the way that it was treated. At the very beginning of this movie, Aquaman has a son, but there's no build up, there's no lead up, there's no explanation. I mean, I don't mean explanation on how he has a son, but I just mean, there's no build-up. There's no family build-up. And of course, by the time you get to the end of the movie, then of course that child is going to be in danger, and I just never really felt emotionally connected, other than the fact that you just naturally would feel bad for an infant that's in trouble, but I never really felt like the pressure was on. I never really felt like Aquaman was truly in danger, nor did I really truly feel like his child was in danger, because I just never had that emotional building, that world building, that character building, that family dynamic. It just didn't feel right, and something else that I think that really hurt this movie, and for those reasons, the reason why I feel like there was not that much of a family dynamic was because of the fact that Amber Heard's character is almost not even in this movie. I mean, Amber Heard went from being like, basically the co-main star of the first movie to in this movie almost not even being there. She's in very few scenes. She is in there, and when she fights or when she's in an action sequence, it is really good. Amber Heard, if you can, look away from everything that was happening in the real world with her case and stuff against Johnny Depp and the lawsuit and all that stuff, in terms of this movie, she does a really good job. And I actually thought that one of the biggest weaknesses of this movie is that they didn't utilize her more. Now I understand that there's a little bit of drama and whatnot outside, but it just felt like such a disconnect for her character from the first movie where she was front and center with Jason Momoa. And honestly, I really felt, that was a missing piece. In the first movie, she has one of the best action sequences probably in any comic book, movie. I mean, she just absolutely, annihilates, and does such a great job, does such a great job with her action sequences as Mira in the first movie. And then I just feel like, when you come to this movie, she's basically not even in there. And to me, that just damaged it and really made, it was really disappointing for me. And that's one of the biggest complaints I have of this movie, was the lack of Mira and the lack of Amber Heard. Even though, like I said, I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the real world, I did feel her absence in this movie. Now, on the other hand of that, there were a lot of really, and on the other hand, there was a lot of really good things, like Patrick Wilson, his character in this movie. He portrayed, King Orm. Well, he absolutely has a really good redemption arc in this movie, and I really liked how they ended his character and how they ended his character with Arthur and Aquaman, and I really loved their dynamic. And the whole movie really follows those two characters, King Orm and Arthur. They're pretty well in almost every single scene together. Almost every scene they have is together, and they're in, for the most part, the entirety of the movie. And really, their dynamic, that brotherly dynamic of forgiveness and also of a really cool underdog sort of redemption arc, I really appreciated that. I really liked how Arthur was willing to bend the rules a little bit by the end of it, sort of being like, as far as I'm concerned, you paid your debt and whatnot. And he sort of gives his brother that freedom, but he does it in a way that's, justifiable, I think, from both ends, in a way, because, to some degree, he's still going to be a prisoner because he has to hang low for some time, but at the same time, he doesn't have to spend that time actually in a prison. I really liked where they ended the movie in terms of Atlantis and and Atlantis's relationship with the real world. I really appreciated that. But once again, I still feel like this should have come before the Flash movie, because I still feel like the Flash movie had more of a conclusion than this one. Now, in terms of the actual action, I thought the action sequences were absolutely phenomenal. I loved the hand-to-hand combat, especially with Aquaman whenever he was fighting Black Mantis or Manta. Manta is in this movie again, and pretty well is the first and front runner of the villain. There is sort of another little villain in there as well, but overall the story really revolves around the fight between Aquaman and Black Manta, and Black Manta ends up finding this sort of ancient trident. I think they call it the Black Trident, and it sort of unleashes this this kingdom, which of course hence the name, the Lost Kingdom. I really felt like it took a lot of inspiration from the Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, that Lost Kingdom, and all of its army and its undead ruler, so to speak. Had a lot of elements and a lot of similarities to the dead army in Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, the finale. They were even the same color. They were green, just like the army from Lord of the Rings. So I did get a lot of Lord of the Rings vibes, a lot of Sauron vibes there. And it felt like they really used, Lord of the Rings as their inspiration, which I think Warner Brothers actually do own. Pretty sure Warner Brothers do own the rights, at least of the movies. I'm not 100% sure about anything else, but the movies themselves, Warner Brothers do have the rights to that. So I did feel like there was a lot of inspiration from Lord of the Rings here and all that stuff. And of course, the only other character that I think was really a true standout was Randall Park, who portrayed Dr. Stephen Chin. He sort of flip-flops. He's kind of like that character that goes in between. It's like he kind of works with the bad guy, but he's not working with the bad guy for the sake of being a bad guy. He's a scientist and he's looking for answers, and he just feels like this bad guy. Black Manta is the guy to show him the truths, and he feels like he can discover a lot of stuff, especially about Atlantis, through Black Manta. But at his core, Dr. Stephen Shin still has a heart and really ends up flipping as the movie progresses and really becomes more of a good guy, and to some degree sort of has a redemption arc as well. But at the same time, he's not really a villain, if that makes sense. He makes bad decisions, but I wouldn't say that he's a bad guy. He does it, for the sake of trying to learn and whatnot and all that good stuff. Of course, Nicole Kidman kills it in this movie. Everything she's in, she kills it. She portrays Atlanta, and once again does a phenomenal job. I cannot, complain about her whatsoever. I thought she did a really great job. Yanni Zaho is in this movie as well as Stingray. Once again, phenomenal character, very powerful, really good action sequences, but once again, I think very underutilized. They could have done a lot more with her character, but overall, I did still love her and her portrayal of the character with what she was given. So if I had to put a number on Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, I would probably give this one like a 60%, and only because I thought the first half of the movie was so bad. Now, the second half of the movie was really, really good. I loved the ending. I loved the action. I loved the sequences. I loved the special effects. There were a couple times when it looked a little CGI-ish, but I will say overall, the movie looked good overall. I even liked Aquaman in his, comic book accurate suit, which was something I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to get behind, but he looked really good in this one. I'll give credit when credit's due. I actually think Jason Momoa really pulled off the suit, and he looked really good, and I absolutely loved how he looked. I loved the trident. I loved that brotherly, fighting, all the brotherly, that brotherly relationship between him and Orm. And overall, I really did like the second half and, of course, the conclusion of the movie. And that's why I would give it a 60%. I would have given it a higher percentage if the first half was a little bit better. Like I said, I thought the editing was absolutely terrible for the first 20 minutes, but then it gets better. Then the transitions make more sense. Then it looks cleaner, more crisp, and you start to see that $200 million budget. And so with that being said, folks, that is my review of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I really did enjoy the movie, but once again, I do think it's going to fail because there's no gravity, there's no consequences to this movie. The DCEU is over now, and the next project that we will get will be the first project officially from the brand new James Gunn universe, which I'm actually really excited to see. Creature Commandos is the first one, and I can't wait to see that one. It's going to be an animated series, and I think if anyone can handle that type of character or that roster of characters, I think James Gunn is the person to bring it in. So with that being said, folks, that's my review of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts were. Did you see it? Did you like it? Tell me why or why not. If you like this video, click that subscribe button. And until the next one, take care.